The Pleasures of a Naturalist by John Burroughs, Part 2. There seems to me to be false reasoning in the argument from analogy which William James uses in his lectures on human immortality. The brain, he admits, is the organ of the mind, but may only sustain the relation to it, he says, which the wire sustains to the electric current which it transmits, or which the pipe sustains to the water which it conveys. Now the source and origin of the electric current is outside the wire that transmits it, and it could sustain no other than a transient relationship to any other outside material through which it passed. But if we know anything, we know that the human mind or spirit is a vital part of the human body. Its source is in the brain and nervous system. Hence, it and the organ through which it is manifested are essentially one. The analogy of the brain to the battery or dynamo in which the current originates is the only logical or permissible one. Maeterlinck wrote wisely when he said, "The insect does not belong to our world. The other animals, the plants even, notwithstanding their dumb life and the great secrets which they cherish, do not seem wholly foreign to us. In spite of all we feel a sort of earthly brotherhood with them. There is something, on the other hand, about the insect that does not belong to the habits, the ethics, the psychology of our globe. One would be inclined to say that the insect comes from another planet, more monstrous, more energetic, more insane, more atrocious, more infernal than our own. Certainly more cruel and monstrous than our own. Among the spiders, for instance, the female eats the male and often devours her own young. The scorpion does the same thing. I know of nothing like it among our land animals outside the insect world. The insects certainly live in a wonderland of which we have little conception. All our powers are tremendously exaggerated in these little people. Their power makes them acquainted with the inner molecular constitution of matter far more intimately than we can attain by our coarse chemical analysis. Our world is agitated by vibrations, coarse and fine, of which our senses can take in only the slower ones. If they exceed 3,000 a second, they become too shrill for our ears. It is thought that the world of sound with the insects begins where ours leaves off. The drums and tubes of insects' ears are very minute. What would to us be a continuous sound is to them a series of separate blows. We begin to hear blows as continuous sounds when they amount to about 30 a second. The housefly has about 4,000 eye lenses. The cabbage butterfly and the dragonfly about 17,000, and some species of beetles have 25,000. We cannot begin to think in what an agitated world the insect lives, thrilling and vibrating to a degree that would drive us insane. If we possessed the same microscopic gifts, how would the aspect of the world be changed? We might see a puff of smoke as a flock of small blue butterflies, or hear the hum of a mosquito as the blast of a trumpet. On the other hand, so much that disturbs us must escape the insects because their senses are too fine to take it in. Doubtless they do not hear the thunder or feel the earthquake. The insects are much more sensitive to heat and cold than we are, and for reasons. The number of waves in the ether that gives us the sensation of heat is 3 or 4 millions a second. The number of tremors required to produce red light is estimated at 474 millions a second, and for the production of violet light, 699 millions a second. No doubt the insects react to all these different degrees of vibration. Those marvelous instruments called antennae seem to put them in touch with a world of which we are quite oblivious. To how many things our lives have been compared, to a voyage with its storms and adverse currents and safe haven at last, to a day with its morning, noon, and night, to the seasons with their spring, summer, autumn, and winter, to a game, a school, a battle. In one of his addresses to workingmen, Huxley compared life to a game of chess. We must learn the names and the values and the moves of each piece, and all the rules of the game if we hope to play it successfully. The chessboard is the world. The pieces are the phenomenon of the universe. The rules of the game are what we call the laws of nature. But it may be questioned if the comparison is a happy one. Life is not a game in this sense, a diversion, an aside, or a contest for victory over an opponent, except in isolated episodes now and then. Mastery of chess will not help in the mastery of life. Life is a day's work, a struggle where the forces to be used and the forces to be overcome are much more vague and varied and intangible than are those of the chessboard. Life is cooperation with other lives. We win when we help others to win. I suppose business is more often like a game than is life. Your gain is often the other man's loss, and you deliberately aim to outwit your rivals and competitors. But in a sane, normal life, there is little that suggests a game of any kind. We must all have money or its equivalent. There are the three things: money, goods, labor, and the greatest of these is labor. Labor is the sum of all values. The value of things is the labor it requires to produce or to obtain them. Were gold plentiful and silver scarce, the latter would be the more precious. The men at the plow and the hoe and in the mines of coal and iron stand first. These men win from nature what we all must have, and these things are none of them in the hands or under the guardianship of someone who is trying to keep us from obtaining them, or is aiming to take our aids and resources from us. The chess simile has only a rhetorical value. The London working man, to whom Huxley spoke, would look around them in vain to find in their problems of life anything akin to a game of chess, or for any fruitful suggestion in the idea. There were probably mechanics, tradesmen, artisans, teamsters, boatmen, painters, and so on, and knew through experience the forces with which they had to deal. But how many persons who succeed in life have any such expert knowledge of the forces and conditions with which they have to deal, as two chess players have of the pawns and knights and bishops and queens of the chessboard? Huxley was nearly always impressive and convincing, and there was vastly more logical force in his figures than in those of most writers. Life may more truly be compared to a river that has its source in a mountain or hillside spring, with its pure and sparkling or foaming and noisy youth, then its quieter and stronger and larger volume, and then its placid and gently moving current to the sea. Blessed is the life that is self-purifying, like the moving waters that lends itself to many noble uses, never breaking out of bonds and becoming a destructive force. I had a letter the other day from a man who wanted to know why the meadow or field mice gnawed or barked the apple trees when there was a deep coverlid of snow upon the ground. Was it because they found it difficult to get up through the deep frozen snow to the surface to get seeds to eat? He did not seem to know that meadow mice are not seed eaters, but that they live on grass and roots and keep well hidden beneath the ground during the day, when there is a deep fall of snow coming up out of their dens and retreats and leading a free holiday life beneath the snow, free from the danger of cats, foxes, owls, and hawks. Life then becomes a sort of picnic. They build new nests on the surface of the ground and from new runways and disport themselves apparently in a festive mood. The snow is their protection. They bark the trees and take their time. When the snow is gone, their winter picnic is at an end, and they retreat to their dens in the ground and beneath flat stones and lead once more the life of fear. Sitting on my porch recently, wrapped in my blanket, recovering from a slight indisposition, I was in a mood to be interested in the everyday aspects of nature before me, in the white and purple lilacs, in the maple leaves nearly full grown, in the pendant fringe of the yellowish-white bloom of the chestnut and oak, in the new shoots of the grapevines, and so forth. All these things formed only a setting or background for the wild life nearby. The birds are the little people that peep out at me or pause and regard me curiously in this great temple of trees. Wrens, chippies, robins, bluebirds, catbirds, redstarts, and now and then rarer visitants. A few days earlier, for a moment, a morning ground warbler suddenly appeared around the corner on the ground at the foot of the steps and glanced hastily up at me. When I arose and looked over the railing, it had gone. Then the speckled Canada warbler came in the lilac bushes and syringa branches and gave me several good views. The bay-breasted warbler was reported in the evergreens up by the stone house, but he failed to report to me here at the nest. The female redstart, however, came several times to the gravel walk below me, evidently looking for material to begin her nest, and the wren, the irresponsible house wren, was and is in evidence every few minutes, busy carrying nesting material into the box on the corner of the veranda. How intense and emphatic she is, and the male, how he throbs and palpitates with song. Yesterday an interloper appeared. He or she climbed the post by the back way, as it were, and hopped out upon the top of the box and paused, as if to see that the coast was clear. He acted as if he felt himself an intruder. Quick as a flash there was a brown streak from the branch of a maple 30 feet away, and the owner of the box was after him. The culprit did not stop to argue the case, but was off, hotly pursued. I must not forget the pair of wood thrushes that are building a nest in a maple 50 or more feet away. How I love to see them on the ground at my feet, every motion and gesture like music to the eye. The head and neck of the male fairly glows, and there is something fine and manly about his speckled breast. A pair of catbirds have a nest in the barberry bushes at the south end of the house and are in evidence at all hours. But when the nest is completed and the laying of eggs begins, they keep out of the public eye as much as possible. From the front of the stage they retreat behind the curtain. One day, as I sat here, I heard the song of the olive-backed thrush down in the currant bushes below me. Instantly I was transported to the deep woods and trout brooks of my native Catskills. I heard the murmuring water and felt the woodsy coolness of those retreats. Such magic hath associative memories. A moment before, a yellow-throated vireo sang briefly in the maple, a harsh note, and the oriole with its insistent call added to the disquieting sounds. I have no use for the oriole. He has not one musical note, and in grape time his bill is red or purple with the blood of our grapes. But the most of these little people are my benefactors, and add another ray of sunshine to the May day. I shall not soon forget the spectacle of that rare little warbler peeping around the corner of the porch like a little fairy, and then vanishing. The mere studying of the birds, seeking mere knowledge of them, is not enough. You must live with the birds, so to speak, have daily and seasonal associations with them before they come to mean much to you. Then, as they linger about your house or your camp, or as you see them in your walks, they are a part of your life and help give tone and color to your day.